Welcome to Just Energy Radio with your host, naturopath and medical intuitive, Dr. Rita Louise. We have learned from Einstein's theory that matter and energy are one. Physicists believe that all systems in nature have their own particular way of vibrating. From the swinging of a pendulum to the waves of the ocean to the light that brightens the sky each day, each of these oscillates at its own unique rate. The same holds true for every thought, feeling, event, or word we speak. Each has its own frequency or rate of vibration. What many of us don't realize is when we take everything in our universe down to its simplest form, it is all just energy. Join Dr. Rita Louise on a journey through time and space where past, present, and future collide. Today, what you believe may be called into question. What we want to know is, who made up the rules? Be brave and step outside the box. We are about to turn our world upside down and venture into the unknown. Hold on. We are departing our own beliefs and entering alternative realms. Enjoy the possibilities.
Hello and welcome to Just Energy Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Rita Louise, and thank you all for tuning into the show today. Yet another excellent show. In the first hour, we're going to be talking to Keith Blanchard about getting into the zone. And in the second hour, we're going to be speaking with Brian Forrester about the megalithic buildings of the Inca. But don't forget, Just Energy Radio is brought to you by soulhealer.com and the Institute of Applied Energetics. That's appliedenergeticsinstitute.com, where you can learn to be a medical intuitive counselor, or energy medicine practitioner, all from the comfort of your own home. If you're enjoying the programming, please do sign up for our weekly newsletter where you can be kept informed of the upcoming guests and exciting programming that we have on the show. Go to the Just Energy Radio website. That's www.justenergyradio.com. And sign up. And while you're there, you can check out our over 4 years of archives that are all free to download and listen to, while you're at work or at home, or just have a little bit of time that you want to massage your brain and expand those brain cells. Anyway, let me tell you a little bit about Keith, and we're going to get him on the air and talking about some of his wonderful work. In his late 20s, Keith went through a crisis that stripped him of everything he held dear and left him with no choice but to turn inward for answers. This he did, but the peace and stability he so wanted still eluded him. When he was 32, celestial beings began to appear to him, sharing glimpses of his future and the world's. Not only did they enlighten and guide him, they instructed him to pass their message on to others so that they too could learn a higher way of living. So please welcome to Just Energy Radio from thedivineprinciple.com, Keith Blanchard. Hey, Keith, how are you?
Fantastic. If I get any better, I'm going to sprout wings and fly. Hi, Dr. Rita. Thank you for having me on your wonderful program.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I was just surfing the web one day and came across your website, and I'm like, he looks like a really cool guy. Wait, let me check out what he's doing. And ta-da, here you are. So thanks for all the work that you are doing and the people you're helping and all that good stuff.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So how did you get into this whole thing? In your bio, it says you went through a crisis and it stripped you away of everything. What was that all about?
All of my life, I've pursued deeper meaning. As a kid, I was an altar boy. At 15, I wanted to become a Catholic priest, and I was very serious about it. Went to seminary, and then music got in the way. My dad put a guitar in my hands, and I lived the whole music lifestyle. And somehow God was always with me, so to speak, in my consciousness. But I put it in the closet for a while and lived that whole lifestyle. And finally, my ignoring or sweeping under the rug of putting in the closet my spirituality, it started to surface, the dark stuff, just difficulty in life, relationship breakup that really sent me into a tailspin. And from this relationship breakup, it was dark. I mean, I was hurting And a friend of mine started whispering some metaphysical things in my ear. And it said, Keith, I don't expect you to believe what I'm saying, but if you're willing to do anything for peace, apply these ideas to your life and expect miracles. And that day, that week, that month, that year, my life started to turn within itself and became this feedback loop of miracles. And as I would see a small miracle, then my belief and conviction would elevate. And so because of my elevation of conviction, and then more things would manifest, and then this started to turn back within itself, and next thing you know, I'm no longer, as we spoke of earlier, I'm no longer paddling the boat. I'm riding. But it was just hardships that turned me inward and put me in a place of humility so I can create that available space inside for the divine to actually come in and make itself known to me in my life.
I firmly believe that it is so important for us, our egos, to get out of the way and allow God, allow the universe to work through us. And it sounds like you kind of come from that same place.
Yes, for me, it's all, and again, I go back to and I'm really big on this word, and I will repeat it throughout probably this program, humility. Humility is the disposition that we should shoot for, to have the divine come in. It creates that space. It makes us available. Prayer is an excellent way to create the disposition of humility. And once you're humble, as you said, the ego is now removed from the equation. Now there is a place available for the divine to come in and begin to integrate and anchor itself permanently.
Can you explain or define that term humility? I mean, everyone knows that word, but I don't think people really understand kind of on a personal level what that means or what that really looks like.
It's amazing you asked that question, because the question you ask and the fact that it's hard for people or don't really know what that term means, it's a double-sided coin. How do you explain humility to someone?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking you. You're the expert.
You can't. I don't think you can. You can attempt. But humility is something that you know what it is if you had experienced it. Because I guarantee in your space of being humble, you were touched by the divine. And I don't think you can separate the two. I think humility and divinity are the same. So if you had a truly humbling place in your life, then I feel that you've touched this presence of spirit. How do you describe humility? It's a reverent place. It's a place of surrender. Not only surrender your life of worldly things, but it's a true surrendering of yourself, willing to lose yourself to gain yourself kind of place. It's not, humility is never about you. It's not about the ego and what it wants. It's always about higher purpose.
I like the word surrender. I use that one a lot. And, and I joke around and I go, I might argue and I might complain and, kvetch about it, but then I go, oh, okay, and then just do it, because it's not really about me.
Agreed.
Okay. Let's just kind of jump into our topic with both feet, because we have a lot to talk about. In your book, you talk a lot about God and our relationship and experience with God. And I think it's important to just create a foundation. From your perspective, who or what is God? And can you describe our relationship? And I'm going to say to him, but her.
Yeah. That's a multifaceted question. Who and what is God? Well, if we want to see the part of God, now take this in quotes, as separate from us, meaning not completely separate, the fact that we're just not conscious of it yet. It's an energy of absolute perfect love. It's the consciousness of the entire universe. It's perfect consciousness. It's awareness at its absolute level. Now, who is God as far as the truth in the path that I walk? When you look in the mirror, the person you see is God. Now, this rattles a lot of people's trees, and they don't know how to deal with nor process such information. But the truth is God lives inside of you, and God is love in its totality. The only thing that separates you from it is the stuff that we have in the way. And this is the path for any aspirant, is the path of purification. And so once you remove all these things from your life, the negativity, the dark stuff, the fear, and more fear, which is layered like an onion beyond what we can even possibly imagine, then the purification process begins to happen. And again, you begin to become more humble with your disposition, and then the divine can come in and seat itself in a conscious way now. And this is how you begin to bridge your consciousness with the higher consciousness through the process of purification. So God is really who you are at your essence.
Kind of a weird question. Many people believe, there's the saying that we are God or God is in us. In your perspective, is God in the rocks and the trees and the tables and the chairs and everything that's in the manifest world, or is it just something that has to do with people?
It's everything, everywhere. If you look to any particular passage of Scripture, for example, it says, God is omnipresent. Look at the dictionary. If we agree that the dictionary is our resource for language and it conveys clearly and concisely everything we want to know about concepts and words, the dictionary says present in all places at all times. When you were in school and a teacher would call your name for roll call, you'd either say here or present. So present in every place at all times means it's in your hair, it's in your shirt, it's in the chair you're sitting on, it's in the trees, it's in your house. I mean, it's everything everywhere. So basically, when you look out and about with your eyes, what you're seeing is God's body, so to speak. So God is embodied in everything, and everything embodies God.
Could you give the example? In your book, you had an example about fingers. And I don't want to, give it away, but I thought that was a great example, and I think it really kind of personifies kind of what we're talking about.
And even for the spirituals who have been on this path for a while, we still have that engram. I mean, it's hard. It can be challenging to shake these imprints. If you look at your hand and you're noticing all the fingers that you have on your hand, the reason we are seeing ourselves as separate from each other and God is because we're looking at the fingers and the empty spaces between them. So it's easy for us to see that ourselves as separate as individuals. But when we decide to pull our view back and see the whole hand, and the whole hand is what gives rise to the fingers in the first place, that would be God. So God is that from which everything is created and sustained. You remove God out of the equation of the universe just collapses and disappears. So God is attached to a creation, sustaining it. And the way we can become a part of that consciously and begin to deliberately create your life is to learn the spiritual principles and rules that and the laws that, make no mistake about it, are very much in force. And if you are creating by default, you are creating your life anyway, you might as well become conscious of the process and create deliberately so you can create the best life for yourself that you deserve.
It seems like there are some people that are excellent creators, excellent manifestors, and there are some other people that not so good. I mean, they might be really good at creating negative stuff in their life, but not necessarily the positive stuff. Any thoughts on what's going on with those people?
If you can liken God, yourself, your body, and what you know as you, as a movie projector, the canister in the film. If you liken God to the light bulb inside, pure white light, and the white light doesn't care. All it does is shine and shines forever. White, pure light. As that light moves through what you know as you, because God lives inside of you, and all the light does is create. That's what God is, the creator, always has been, is, and forever will. As that light moves through what you know as you, your filter, whatever you have in the way will be projected on the 3D screen of life. If you do not like what you see on your life's movie, you have to change the film.
I think there are a lot of people that don't even want to look at that screen.
Yeah. And it can be very, very tough to go into the abyss where your demons live and dwell. it's challenging. I mean, that's why that person may have shut themselves down from it in the first place. This is just too intense for me and too thick. And so why would, some people may go back and revisit after they gain some equilibrium and feel confident and have some courage. But, it's not, you have to be willing to go through hell to get to heaven, because that's the purification path. You have to look at what you have always known as you and burn it in love's purifying fires to become conscious of love itself.
Hear, hear. I mean, I am a big advocate. I mean, I have a book called Avoiding the Cosmic 2x4 because I think the universe uses that 2x4 justly and appropriately. But I feel like the people that have gotten whacked the most are the ones that, either they're really beat up or they've gone, oh, well, I don't like that stick, and so I'm going to figure out how not to get hit anymore.
Yeah, for sure. And they don't even realize that 2x4 is administered by themselves. We apply it to ourselves. It's self-abuse. I mean, there's no being out there that's looking at you, scoffing and punishing and judging you and compartmentalizing you and saying, now your reality after you die, or even before you die, you're going to be over here. We're choice by choice, thought by thought, deed by deed, day by day, breath by breath. We're pulling all this in. We're taking it in. We're processing it. We're thinking. We're feeling. And we're responding. Thought, there are three components to the creative process: thought, feeling, and action. Thought is that which defines. It's that which gives form to. Thoughts make those things things. Feeling is the volume, the power. The more you put a feeling behind a thought, conscious or not, the faster and the bigger you are guaranteeing that it is going to manifest in your life. Because as soon as you think a thought, when a thought leaves your head, it doesn't die. It's a vibrational frequency that is looking for its life partner. And believe me, it will find it. As a musician, if I was to have an acoustic guitar in my hand and I played on it, and I have another acoustic guitar sitting on a stand and I'm not touching it, if I play an A chord, the A string on that guitar from across the room will begin to vibrate. It's because they have like vibration. It's called sympathetic resonance. It has a quality. They're related. So they begin to respond to each other. So as you think, feel, and do in your life, you are sending out these vibrational frequencies that will find a match, and it will come to you.
I'm not sure where to go there, but I'm going to ask you, I'm going to kind of change the topic here a second. And I'm sure you've gotten asked this before, and it's always kind of like the $1 million question. I mean, it's not a $1 million question, but we were talking about God, and there's always that person that goes, why does God create evil? Or why is there evil in the world? That evil question.
Right.
Any comment to that? Because I think that's a common question that people think, but don't really ever get an answer to.
To me, evil is really not it's a choice. It's how you are perceiving things. This woman was, what's the analogy? Here's a baseball bat. Is this good or bad? Well, yeah, that's good. Well, not really, because last night this bat killed someone. Well, that's bad. Well, no, not really, because the person it killed was an attacker who was attacking a woman. Well, that's good. I mean, we can play this game back and forth, back and forth. We always associate evil with destruction. But can we see it from another perspective as love and construction? Because after that is burnt away, then it's time for rebuilding. But if you're using evil to describe a type of energy, I really don't see evil. It's not part of my vocabulary. I may use the word negativity or negative to describe a fear-based energy. But it would take a lot for me to reach into my file and pull out that word evil.
I like calling, when it's around people, I like calling them bad people.
Yeah,
bad
right,
people.
Right. Just call it flat out what it is. Right.
So, you're talking about energy, you're talking about vibration, and as human beings, are we just a physical body, or is there more, are we made up of more than that?
Well, if you was to walk out into a 98 degree, if we're 98.6 degrees, right? And so if we walk out into a 98-degree sun on a day, on a particular day, you say, boy, that's a hot day. And so we know the sun radiates energy. And if you are 98.6 degrees, you are radiating this bioenergetic field, this aura, right? And everything you are, it's all contained in your energy field. If you had not had the opportunity to get your aura picture taken from like a spiritual fair, I'd advise it. It's very fun. It's very, very enlightening. You'll see how there is more to the human being than you can imagine. People think that we are this body and we have thoughts and we have feelings and it's all self-contained inside. But you have an emotional body, you have a mental body, you have a physical body, and you have a spiritual body. And these all interact. They work together. All these different layers, all these different bands of frequencies. And, you have angelic beings, guides, that live in your auric field. Because we have to understand that we're not separate from each other. The entire universe is inherent in every fragment. In every individual fragment is the universe. Scientists have broken down, we have gotten down so far in the subtle layers of creation. Every time they discover a new layer, they look a little deeper, and there's nothing there. And they find just a few random blips of energy and information, and they look a little deeper, and there's nothing there. So all that exists is spirit, and it's everywhere. And it's just a choice to look for it so you can begin to have revealed to you that which you may not have seen if you didn't make the choice at all.
In your bio, you mentioned that you had some celestial beings appear. What was that experience like for you? I mean, was it kind of unnerving at first, or what was that like? I'm just going to shut up.
Well, when I was a child, grown up Catholic, there was this person who lived on South Louisiana who was beginning to have visits from the Virgin Mary and what he was saying. And I had the opportunity to experience him having a vision. And from what I know as a human being tells me that what was happening in front of me was legitimate. I mean, there was just too much going on, and it wasn't contrived. It was real. That being said, there's a lot of wow and shock and awe and hoo-ha, that people put around people who have visions of angelic beings. Oh, wow, did Keith Blanchard really have a talk with angels? I mean, the answer is, yeah, I did. But this is a very, very normal thing for everyone. Now, that these beings exist around you, do you see them? Is what the question becomes. But to answer your question more directly, when this began to I didn't have any weirdness about it happening because I wanted it. I was expecting it to happen. And when the events started to unfold, say for that particular day, if something was to transpire, by the time I'm in the event, the process of me thinking about how I was going to feel if it was going to happen today, it was too far gone. When it would happen, I would automatically find myself in awe and bliss and humility. Back to humility, just humbled and trying to do everything I can to be present with myself in the experience as long as I can through breathing so the experience wouldn't fade.
That's cool. Do they come to you? I mean, are you a visual person, an auditory person, a kind of multimedia? I always am just curious about that.
Multi. I hear, I see. Sometimes when I see, it's not with my physical eyes. It's superimposed, and there's a knowing involved, and the knowing is very powerful. It's just like if you know, you know, and if you don't know, then you don't. There's no. You're not almost pregnant. I mean, you either are, you either know, you don't. And I get validation after I have an experience. A synchronistic event will happen that will validate to me that what transpired in such an amazing way. A lot of times it's audio involved. I mostly have a lot of my experiences when I sleep, and I don't want people to think that, well, you're just having this far-out dream. No. Please understand that when these experiences happen, I'm just as conscious as I am talking to you on this phone right here, right now.
but that makes sense. I didn't connect. It's like you're a musician, so auditory would make perfect sense for you, as being your primary.
At the beginning of the show, you called it, the topic of the show being getting in the zone, and that you bring up the fact I'm a musician. I've played music professionally with world-renowned players for years, and I know what it's like to be in the zone. In that zone, people who dance get in the zone. People who race car drivers, they getting in a zone. It's not about driving as fast as you can. They're all driving as fast as they can. They're trying to get in the zone. And being a musician, playing with these types of players, these caliber of players, there is a place that happens, and this can apply to anyone, whatever it is you do. And I would bet that these moments happen when you're doing something you're passionate about doing. Is the zone. And that zone, when you're there, for example, playing with my band, when you're there, 5 people become the catalyst for the same thought. And you don't rehearse, and magic begins to happen on levels that even freak the band members out themselves. But we've been doing it so long after the first or second song or third song that we're just warming up and kind of falling in. We're all, as a band, are trying to get to that zone where we are not playing the instruments ourselves. We actually have mastered the art of getting out of the way.
But I think I know everybody have had experiences of being in the zone. When you go to the gym and you just put in a really hard workout, or you're doing artwork, you're in the garden, working on the yard, or there are so many mundane things that can get us in the zone.
And it's an intention, and it's very simple. Getting in the zone, as with a workout, because when you work out, you're so involved with yourself. I don't mean the lower self, the higher self, because you're doing something constructive, you're doing something beneficial. There's an absolute unbroken focus, and there's an intention. And the intention is what creates the zone. I'm intending to get into a zone, and therefore all the subtler levels of what has to happen to get there, you begin to take just by your intention to get into the zone. And then you do the work necessary, and next thing you know, you've reached your goal. You're in the zone. I mean, it's no coincidence the football players call the ultimate, quote, goal is getting into the zone, the end zone.
What's the benefit? It's like, okay, so you get in the zone, big deal. What's the benefit of getting into the zone? Why would you care or even want to get there?
When you get there, you're filled with bliss. When you get there, you begin to see that you are not separate. Because when you're in the zone, you are in God, basically, or you are in a higher level of yourself that you may not be used to. There's no thinking involved. There's a knowing involved. You feel your connection to the cosmos. So the question is, how does this benefit me? Because what you can create from being in the zone can have far more powerful effects than you trying to create from not being in the zone. It would take so much more work, physical labor, thought energy, emotional energy, to create from that perspective than it would in the zone. Because once you're in the zone, you're operating in such a higher level. Mere intention can truly change so many events in your life.
And then everything just starts moving smoother, freer, easier, et cetera,
accordingly,
et cetera?
That's right. Because if you an analogy, if you imagine you're flying in a plane, okay, and you're flying, that plane can fly at whatever planes fly, 500 miles an hour, and you're traveling a couple hundred feet up the earth, you're going to cover a certain amount of ground. But if you can take that same into space from a, quote, higher perspective, and you travel for the same amount of time, you could probably, pass through half the distance it would take to go around the earth. Same idea. When you go to the perspective of a higher place, what you do there creates the whole a lot better. It's a broader experience that you're able to, use a word, manipulate.
It's more better. That's
better.
Very scientific. It's
better.
More better.
More better.
Keith, we need to go take a quick break. Okay. When we come back, maybe we can talk about some of the spiritual laws that apply to us.
Wonderful.
Okay. I'm Dr. Rita Louise. We're here talking with Keith Blanchard. His book is The Divine Principle. We will be back after these words from our sponsors.
Just Energy Radio with your host, Dr. Rita Louise, will return right after these messages. And now back to Just Energy Radio with Dr. Rita Louise.
Hello and welcome back to Just Energy Radio. I'm Dr. Rita Louise, and we're talking to Keith Blanchard. His webpage is thedivineprinciple.com. Keith, before the break, I suggested that we talk about the spiritual laws. And I think there are a lot of people that are familiar with the law of attraction, which is a spiritual law. But are there other ones that we should maybe be aware of that might help us as we move along in our journey?
Yeah, and I'm really glad that you brought this up. The law of attraction is wonderful, but it's broad. We need to break this down to find out how to really make things happen. Yes, everything you think, everything you do, everything you say, you attract. But how do we find some of the subtler ideas so we can begin to put that whole picture into motion in our way? And if you're listening to this program now, if you have a pencil and paper nearby, jot these down. Feel free to contact me via my website through the email. I will love to send you this. I promise you, if you follow this curriculum, what I'm about to lay out, and you're listening, your life will change. But you may have resistance show up. If you have any resistance show up, as I mentioned some of these laws, put the law that you hear in the resistance itself, because it's the block, it's the resistance to the law that you may hear that will put up that wall. And that's probably why you're not having the success in your life as you could be. And when I got this information, I'm sorry?
Wait, just before you go on, let's just give it out. The website is thedivineprinciple.com, so, send the email to or go to thedivineprinciple.com to do the email thing. Okay.
And the day I received this, I would go into meditation, and I felt informationally pregnant that day. And I knew everything in my consciousness that I was to write down, but it took me to sit down and linearly write this out. And this is called The Divine Principle, and this is why I named the book. When you begin to apply and integrate these principles, you will begin to anchor heaven on earth within you. Divine Principle number 1, choose not to accept defeat. This obviously is a characteristic of our Creator. This is the law of all possibilities, pure potentiality, and Godhood. Having faith, having absolute faith in yourself, will enable you to see that miracles can happen to you. That is when you truly begin to live your life as a God aspirant. Number 2, show no intent to control, for any such attempt will defeat you. This is the law of karma, the law of cause and effect. Through this law, divine order is upheld. Number 3, choose not to place your happiness in the hands of another person, nor in the temporal world. How many times people are in relationship, the partner decides to leave, and the world, as is turned upside down. This is the law of self-fulfillment through God, the source of all life and happiness. This is the law of no external idol worship given to us by Moses. Choose to reach for the ideal self is number 4, by turning inward to move forward. This is the law of observation. Learning to remember creates regeneration, expansion, and conscious spiritual evolution. Pray and meditate daily is number 5. The law of giving and receiving. Prayer is talking to God. Meditation is listening. When these two are practiced together, you and the universe, God, communicate. Divine Principle number 6. Show intent to embrace understand, and transcend your fear. This is the law of divinity and free will choice. Aligning with God rewards you with everlasting peace. Number 7, become fully aware of what you are thinking and feeling, for this will launch you into your mastery as creator. The law of the I. When you're aware of awareness, you are conscious of consciousness. Number 8, take responsibility for your life, for it is of your own creation, all of it. The law of deliberate creativity. This is Living Laws 1 and 7. And finally, divine principle number 9. Claim your part in the whole by realizing who you are. You are God. God is you. This is the law of self-enlightenment, acknowledging God as omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent. It's the divine source principle embodied within all things. And finally, inherent in each of these laws is the whole of the divine principle. It will take your heart to fully comprehend them, because they are formless, above and beyond language. So it's these principles were given to me to write down because they put you in power. They put everything in your lap, absolute responsibility for everything, every thought, every feeling, every action. And when the person begins to see themselves as God, and I don't mean with arrogance or ego or blasphemy, it's truly a responsibility, and it's actually an obligation, that we become the embodiments of divinity so that energy can move out from us and begin to spread throughout the world. And therefore, the world becomes the heaven on earth prophecy that we've heard about throughout all Scripture.
Is this a process that somebody would go through, or is it something that they might say, I'm going to work on principle number 3 today, or how would somebody approach incorporating those principles into their lives?
Well, I think everyone knows themselves well enough to jump in. I mean, are you going to jump in with water wings, or are you just going to jump off the high diving board into the deep end? I'm that kind of guy. I'm the kind of guy that jumps off the diving board. It's a process, and if you get the divine principle and you look at these principles, and you will see for yourself if you feel overwhelmed by making such a dramatic shift, or if it needs to be a slower process for you. This is what is happening in my life. Some people work a little more compartmentalized than others. Some people can take big ideas and move into them, and some people have to, take baby steps and process and do a little more work and process and see the results. And I guess it's to each individual.
Yeah.
But yes, it's a process, Dr. Rita. I've been on this path for years, as sure as many of us. It's a process. I mean, the spiritual life is not on Sunday in church. It's every day, 24/7, for the rest of your life.
And I'm going to assume that the list that you provided, those 9 spiritual laws, even though there really should be 10, unless the kind of summary one was kind of 10, 10 commandments, 10 spiritual laws. It works for me anyway. But that there's not really like a checkbox, well, I did this one. I can knock it off my list, but it's something that you continue to develop and unfold every day, every year of your life.
Yeah, and no kidding, an excellent way to gauge your process. Be it with, you can use the 9 divine principles or just anything in your life. Walk in front of a mirror, look in your own eyes, and say, my life is happy. I'm happy. I love myself. And the thought will likely crop up that says, only if. That only if is telling you directly where the work needs to be, where the focus needs to be. You do this once a week, twice a week. When you say, I love myself, and that only if don't show up, it's cleared. You may have another only if show up, and then you do the work. You do the process, you do the work, and you clear it. Fantastic way to get clear.
I like that. That's simple, but I think everybody's had, if I only lost 10 pounds, if I only this, if I only that. Yeah. I like that one. I've never had somebody use that, I want to say mnemonic, but that would not be the right word at all, but that phrase to bring up a response, and then look at what the response is. So, anyway.
Yeah, and the mirror is a metaphor for seeing yourself. And so when you go into the window, the mirror, which is basically a portal to see yourself. I love myself, and of course the only if I had this, or I didn't look like that, or this was removed from me, God please take this away from me, it's never going to happen. You have to do the work and clear it.
I just look in the mirror and go, if I only had $1 million. Well, now I think I need to put it into if I only had $1 trillion in today's society.
Right on.
What about free will? People go, but I have free will. How does that fit into this whole picture? Especially with the concept of humility and surrender that we've been talking about.
The only free will you really have is the choice to be in the flow or not. And everything else will happen from there. You're in the flow, your life happens for you. You're not in the flow, life will happen to you. That's the free will you have. You have the free will choice to plug into simplicity, or you can use that choice and just remain in difficulty. That's your free will. There's really nothing else to the free will. God's not threatened by what you do. It knows it's the absolution of itself, has been, is now, and always will be. So it's not threatened by the choices you make. And one day, whether you choose it of your volition or whether by unplugging from the system because of your free will, something happens on a very magnanimous level that puts you on your knees, you will eventually, this life, another life, some other existence, will return to divine consciousness because you will be humbled.
Mm-hmm. And I guess God's not up there laughing at you going, that was a stupid choice. Here's some lightning bolts. But it seems like there are so many people that are, the mentality, the consciousness is really, how do I want to phrase this? It's like we're being programmed to be in a place of vying for power and control as opposed to being in this flow.
Power, control. We have to look at what power is. Power, depends, just by me saying the word power. The people listening, how are you taking the word power? Do you see power as governmental power, or do you see power as the universal creative energy? Where did your mind go when I mentioned the word power? What do you call power? For me, real power is the lack of wanting power. And because when you can have more control of your life. You will be in more control when you relinquish control. It sounds contradictory, but trust me, it works. Letting go through control. When you can control yourself from controlling your life is when your life will happen. We call it surrender. If you can imagine there's a wheel inside of you, and it's turning from in one direction, top to bottom, towards the front, and it's spinning, and that's you controlling, and every time you clamp down on an issue, that wheel starts to spin faster. But when you learn how to release control, the wheel starts to slow down, and it starts to slow down, and finally, when the wheel stops, that's when you may start to feel really funky, because in that still space, you feel like you might be falling. But don't sweat. That's when the magic's about to happen, because the wheel's now about to start spinning the other way. And once it picks up its momentum, you, like I and many other people, begin to ride the raft versus doing all the paddling. And then the river of life moves through you, and you begin to create your life with mere intention. Hear me. You think a thought. You have the feeling show up. You create the feeling that you know what you want will bring. And by law, it will happen. If you want a Ferrari, you really don't want the car. You want the feeling the Ferrari gives you. So if you could find it within yourself to create the feeling that the Ferrari will give you, by law, the car will manifest.
Kind of can't relate to the Ferrari thing other than, like being cool because I got a Ferrari. That'd be okay. But I would just get tickets. So that's what I would be creating for myself. It's like, ooh, another speeding ticket. But I think, when you talk about creating in that way, and people use examples about the Ferrari, and it always seems so out of place to me, where to me it's more like it's about, I hate to use the parking spot example, but, basic things in your life, creating friendships, creating peace, creating, more day-to-day things. Because I think people go, oh, well, if I think these things, I can create a house or I can create a Ferrari. And I'm not saying that you can't, but most people kind of have to work up to it. It's like, well, let's work on a parking spot, or let's work on finding $20. I'll share a quick story with you and the listeners. We started doing a thank you circle at our dining room table every night, and me and my ex and the kids would have to say this was something that we were thankful for. And it started off, it's like, well, I'm thanking you because I found a quarter on the floor. Yeah. Well, after about a month, one of them started finding $20 bills. And I'm like, well, that process obviously is working for you. I mean, I felt a little guilty that he had some other kid's $20 bill, but he had to build up to it. I mean, what do you think about that whole concept of kind of starting small and realistic and building up to the Ferrari?
Yeah, sure. Don't overwhelm yourself. But the idea that if whatever car you want, place it in this analogy. You can have that right now. And yes, that's a big dose. I mean, it's a very large image. But is it possible that you can have it? And I'm telling you, yes. But for example, like you said, taking smaller steps. One night I was out with my wife at the time having fun. We were in a casino, just spending a little money, just enjoying an evening out. And I had this idea in my head that I don't want to break this $100 bill that's in my wallet, right? So I'm going to go to the ATM just to get out 20 so I can continue to play, because I wasn't really a big casino person. That was her thing, and I was just there just to hang out. And as I'm walking to this ATM machine, mind you, I'm getting the 20 plus the $4 it's going to cost me to extract the money. I thought to myself, this is just absolute wrong, because I have a fear-based thought. As soon as I turned around, I was going to go spend that 100. Well, use the 100. Turned out there's a quarter on the floor, and I said, thank you. So I picked up the quarter, and I walked to the first machine and put $100 in, hit it one time, I won $500. I went home with $500. The point of this story is changing my mind from fear-based to excitement-based. I recognize the block this was creating in me and my life experience. And by making that choice, I turned around. And events started to unfold that led me to the resource of money that I was looking for on that particular night. Just a thought. I changed a certain way of seeing my life.
That's a great example. A great example. And so, will getting into the flow of the rhythms of the universe help us return to our true selves and help us to reconnect with God?
Yeah, when you're in the flow, you are in your true self. The true self is the flow. It's not detached from the flow. Your true self is the life breath, which is the flow.
Maybe kind of a weird question to you, but I think this is more for the listeners. From an inside perspective, can you really tell the difference between who you are, in the general sense of the word, not in the flow, and who you are in the flow? And the reason I'm bringing that up is I think a lot of people have misconceptions of what these experiences are supposed to be like, little trumpets, God floating on clouds, But is it, you know what I mean?
Very good question. You have to become self-aware. And when I mean self-aware, I don't mean just people think they are what's inside their head. I mean, we live from inside our head. Our eyes are there, the nose is there, the ears are there, the mouth there. All these sensory objects are in our head. But that's not where we are at all. You have to become aware of yourself to know when you are in flow or not. And you can tell by the thoughts in your head, by the way you're feeling, how your day's going. People say, man, today I'm in the flow. Well, then obviously you know that you're in the flow because your day is unfolding accordingly. But you can get in the flow just by waking up in the morning. Intend to be in the flow. You will have better results than if you woken and did not intend at all, believe me. Because flow equals perception. How are you perceiving what's happening? What is your spin on it? What's your slant? Do you think what's happening is bad or good? That'll insert you into the flow or take you out of it. How are you feeling? What's the thoughts you were thinking? And again, it's every person for themselves, because you know how you feel. Flow is easiness. It's effortlessness. You feel good that day. You feel peaceful. You feel healthy. Your life is at ease versus a dis-ease. When things move out the way for you, you are in flow.
Your guys are hysterical. You know that. It's like you're talking and they're like cracking these jokes, and I'm like, quit it.
What guys?
Your guys. You know, those guys.
Oh,
you know,
you're hearing my partners.
Like, I just call them the guys, well, my guys were saying, and you're saying, well, when you're in the flow, and I'm like, and things will get out of your way, and they're saying to me, yeah, just get out of the way, and, and they're showing me, like, pushing people out of the way, get out of the way.
I think you just said it. How do you know if you're in the flow? If you don't know you're in the flow, you're not in the flow.
Mm-hmm.
You know when you're in the flow. It's obvious. It has to be obvious. It is for me.
You've brought up the term intention a number of times, and I think that's another one that we might want to spend just a couple of moments talking about. Why is using intention so important? And in your viewpoint, what does that really mean, having intention for something? Intention means you are willing. Willing meaning you are in that moment willing your life. In that moment you are creating your life. Intention means I'm choosing to create. Now, you may have conscious intentions. You may have unconscious intentions. Doesn't matter. You are intending through your unconscious intentions as well as being conscious. Either way, you are still creating. This is how patterns of sameness begin to evolve in people's lives through unaware intentions. Everything you do is an intention. I intend to get up to go use the bathroom or to go get me some water. You don't put a lot of thought into it. When you decide to walk from your house to your car, are you thinking every step that I have to move my leg? You're not. You're just intending. And then the whole subconscious system takes over for you and creates it. Can we create negative intentions or have negative intentions and then have them come and get us? I think it might make more sense instead of dividing the two. But let's just say that you have intentions, because they're creating equally. Negative intentions and positive intentions don't create any different than each other. It's the energetic spin that you are putting on the intention. The intention is the manifestation. The intention is the fact that as you intend, it's already manifested on some level. It may not reach you yet because of the buffer of time. The reason the buffer of time is a benefit because some of the stuff that we intend, if it was to create immediate in front of our face, we couldn't handle it. So your intention is manifested. Now, it's how you spend the intention. Are you appreciative of all the financial abundance you have in your life? Or are you saying, God, if I had this amount of money, if I would make this money, I can pay that bill. The goal is the same. You wanting to pay the bill, but it's your intention. And I just get the impression that when people have, and I use negative intentions or whatever, but they create self-sabotage in their life because they don't think, they're not going to be taken care of, or the thing that they are intending, they kind of have it blow up on them. Yes. And they stop intending, and they don't realize there's no way you can stop intending. You just may go unconscious, but you can't stop intending. Your whole life is intention. Your whole life is a meditation. Your whole life is a prayer. You might as well get involved with your life. Keith, we only have maybe 2 minutes left. Is there any first steps that the listeners can take to start getting into the flow or start deliberately creating happiness in their lives?
Turn inward, and be willing to go through hell to get to heaven. Understand, and I say this not out of to generate fear, but to support this period we're living in. Maybe this will motivate you if you happen to be such a person who lives by the lack of this dynamic. If you are a person with troubles in your life, hear me. In this period we are living in, and I say this on every interview, if you do not get busy now, yesterday, cleaning up your life, the energy that's going to be ushered in, that's being ushered in now through you and me, there may come a time in your life that you're going to wish you had cleared your energy because the events that's going to unfold are going to be too big for you to balance, and that will be a very, very sad day for you. The energy is lifting, and it's going to mirror to you yourself. Go inside, find the work, find the fears, move through them, walk through the fears, invite your fears. Keith, that's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy, but do it anyway. Invite your fears in. Sit with your fear. Imagine you have a room in your house and you don't like the color that's painted on the wall. You can't paint and change the color of the wall by being on the outside. You have to go in it. So you have to call up the fear. You have to be okay with your fear. Basically, you have to okay your way out of it and realize that fear is an illusion. It creates the reality of illusion. And that illusion and that reality and experience is happening the moment you are afraid. That is the reality.
Keith, our time is up. I need to say goodbye.
Wow.
You're very cool. I know, very fast.
I'd love to come back.
Very fast. I would love to have you back, but we need to say goodbye for now, or till next time.
Yeah.
How's that?
Wonderful. And
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Well, this was very cool. So we're as I touched the wrong button. Can I stop it? I don't know. Let's see if I do that. You know, the joys of electronics. All right.
Love it.
Well, the music should come up. And, again, thank you, Keith, for coming on. All right. Bye-bye. And that's Keith Blanchard. His webpage is thedivineprinciple.com. And we'll be back with Brian Forster after these words from our sponsors.
Just Energy Radio with your host, Dr. Rita Louise, will return right after these messages.